welcome to episode 121 of the Wrist Cheese Radio podcast, your place for horological hot takes, taboo topics, and often unpopular watch opinions. My name is Schmidt, and I'm joined, as always, by my good buddy. You guys know him, you love him, Mr. Bro Dinky. Bro, what's up, man?
What's up there, buddy? Just recording another late night episode for our folks out there, getting our weekly due in. I've been happy with the streak we put together as of late since we as a family have popped out the little guys. So, I'd like to keep that going and keep it rolling and
For sure.
keep everybody abreast to the situation appropriately, if you will. But everything's been good. How about you?
Good, man. Just as always on the road. So recording these late night episodes with you is always a pleasure. Highlight of my day. But good, man. Everything's been good. No issues. You ready for the 4th?
Yes. And it's nice because the 4th is not what it used to be for me. The 4th used to be damn near 2,000 people. And it was always the biggest holiday of the year. And it was just craziness. And now it's a lot less for me. So I'm very excited. I get to actually hang out and watch fireworks with the kiddos. So it's a good time. Man. Yeah.
Nice.
How about you? You got any big plans?
Yeah, we're throwing a little bit of a rager. So inviting a bunch of people, should be about 30 people, hopefully, and barbecuing all day, drinking all day, watching fireworks at night. So it should be pretty fun.
Very, very nice. Very nice. And for all of you out there, you can hear Schmidt traveling with his handy dandy iPhone microphone that I always talk about. But again, thanks to everybody who's signed up for our patron program. We've got a couple more since last week, so that's cool. And we're working towards that very sweet traveling lapel mic for Mr. Schmidt in the Wrist Cheese Radio bank account. So that's awesome. And again, thanks to all of you. We appreciate you greatly. And those of you who haven't joined yet, I'm not saying do it, but consider it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Yes. Maybe the audio quality will improve while I'm on the road, so we'll see.
Yeah, the one guy who was mad about the audio quality in our reviews can be redeemed.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see. The review's still there, so we'll find out.
It's funny. Okay, so this week we've got some new stuff. Nothing too crazy. Kind of a quiet week as far as releases go. Nothing in the higher price brackets. I don't think that was too exciting for me. I mean, the Booker was there, but I mean, even then it was a super limited release. I think it was like 250 pieces.
Yeah, and AP did launch like a couple double balance wheel watches today, which, is totally our bread and butter. So we need to dedicate so much time to it. But
that's right.
So, it is what it is, whatever.
Right. So we can
keep it moving.
Exactly. Right. We'll keep on moseying on along, but a lot of the stuff is in I want to say it's mostly micro brand space, which is interesting because a lot of them do provide that sort of pop of value that you do get from the micro brands, but also it kind of goes hand in hand with our most recent episode in that, like, at what point do you think about, is it time to part with my money for a brand that maybe I don't know that much about? Right? Yeah. We talked a lot about brand equity and building it and stuff like that. And even being lucky enough to make it to the shows if you can and handle some of this stuff, you just, at what point does it flip in your head where you're like, okay, yeah, I'll fork over some cash for this. I think it's an interesting prospect, but I think starting with the specs and starting with the designs and being able to be agile and nimble as far as those things go is what is attractive about these. Mm-hmm. But I'd be curious to know about, what the listeners think as far as, because some people are totally micro people. Some people are not micro people. Some people are on the fence. And that's not all micro brands in general, but certainly the ones we're going to talk about, I think some of them definitely merit that decision process.
Yeah, for sure.
But we'll kick it off with Nevada. We like a lot of Nevada stuff on this show, and again, we know it's what we like to call the zombie brand that Nevada used to be, but it's sort of the relaunch of Nevada, and they take a lot of design cues from their old stuff. And if you ever go to the shows, one thing I like a lot is that they bring their vintage models with them and put them side by side, which is really neat.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that.
I saw an old F77, like the old sort of, if you don't know what it is, it kind of looks like a Royal Oak. Kind of has that screws and octagonal look to it.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it had like a really old faded, I think it was a honeycomb dial, and it looked so good. It was like
Yeah, yeah.
beige-ish.
You know what? Now that you mentioned that, I remember us talking about this before. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But that's the one thing I really like that they do, and they bring them around. You could check them out and put them side by side and see where they've sort of drawn their inspirations from. But in this case, this is more of a revamp. So they've already had out the Super Antarctic and the Super Antarctic Spider. Now they're
Hmm.
resizing them down to 35 millimeters. I want to say this might be based off feedback because having personal experience with this watch, it comes in 37 typically. It
Yeah,
is all dial.
yeah,
There
yeah,
is very little bezel to it. It's just dial and case. So even at 37, it wears a little larger than 37 on the
yeah,
wrist. So I
yeah.
think 35 will be the ideal sweet spot for this watch. And I know people will say 35, what the heck? But I mean, if you go back to the time period when these were probably popular, I mean, you think about the old Omegas, a lot of them come in
Hmm.
that 35-ish
Yeah,
range.
if not even slightly smaller than that. Like my vintage Seamaster is 34,
Right.
but everyone always asks me if it's a 36 constantly.
Again, a lot of
So,
them very much just a lot of dial.
well, it's that, but it's also the lugs. The lugs on looking at the Super Antarctic and the Antarctics. The lugs are long.
Yes,
Like
they
they
are.
they they jut out quite a bit. So it's kind of like that Nomo syndrome. Like if you go based on case dimension, size, 38 sounds like a great number, but when the lugs are 52, millimeters lug to lug, it wears like a 40. You know what I mean? So in this case, I think 35 is probably a very svelte size. It's probably well proportioned given, the shrinkage in size, and that way the lugs won't feel slow big, which will be good, and I would imagine that 35 millimeters is also probably more in line with the original production of these watches back in the 50s. So that should be cool.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with this line, they have one that looks kind of like some of the original Explorer models, and then they have another which is the Spider, which has a really neat. Man, I don't know how to describe it that well over the air, but you should definitely just give it a Google. It's worth it. It's a really cool looking design, and I think the Spider
It's so cool.
is gonna look cash money in this format. I really do.
It's yeah. I mean, I've been a big fan of the Spider ever since they came back out with it. I mean, this was an original dial that they had back in the 50s. It's a very funky dial, even by today's standards. Certainly would have been
Yes,
funky back then, but it looks super, super cool, especially on that like jet gloss black that they have. Oh man, it is. Sign me up, dude. If I had $850 laying around burning a hole in my
just
pocket,
ready to burn. Yeah,
I would just buy one of these 100% without thinking about it. It's
yeah.
such a well priced timepiece. It looks amazing, and you get a vintage watch without having to deal with vintage watch problems. You
That is
know,
nice, right?
it's great. It's great.
You don't have to track one down. Number one, you don't have to worry about the servicing, the history, the frankening, all the stuff that goes into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it does offer its perks in that regard for sure. But yeah, definitely check these out. These are cool. They come on sort of a racing leather strap, lots of holes, but it's sporty. It's athletic looking. I think it fits really well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, definitely a nice offering there. From there, we will go to Walbrook Watches, a company that makes a fair amount of dive watches. They put out a new version of their skin diver in a decompression look. If you've ever seen the who put out that popular decompression one with Hodinkee, was that Mito?
It was Mito.
It
Yeah, it
was
was
Mito.
Mito.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Mito, if you've ever seen that one, it's got almost like a rainbow looking motif. It's got blue rings and green and yellow and red, and they're kind of concentric circles. And I'm sure you can let us know exactly how this works, but it gives sort of a really neat rainbow effect. And because divers are very kind of sterile in nature, right? Especially this one black bezel and sort of just the classic H case look on a and it's photographed on a black tropic, but it also comes on a beads of rice. And they're also offering other straps with it that you can actually add for free, which is kind of cool. Right now they have a little thing going on where it's only $411, which is also pretty sweet because as we've always discussed, not a lot for $411 out there these days. So,
Especially not in automatic, right? Like you can get like a
right.
Mecha Chords, you can get a chord sign piece from a reputable brand, but nothing in mechanical really. It's getting harder and harder for sure. I mean, heck, as we talked about before, Seikos are approaching beyond that price point, right? And that's kind of a crazy thing. But yeah, like you said, I mean, this is a decompression timer. So basically, you have all the graduations there based on the Navy dive tables for decompression stop times and things like that. If you were using this as a risk computer, if you would, for diving, as you mentioned, you said $411. It's a special offer right now. So when we post this podcast,
There'll be like 2 days
um,
left, 3 days.
yeah, so it'll be only a couple days, but as of the moment of this recording, it's 4 days left for you to basically get it at a 10% discount plus a free strap. And this is going on until July 6th. So depending on the posting of this, if you're interested in a Woolbrook, run out and grab one, get you a free strap, get you a discount, and enjoy your new diver because it's going to be awesome. And the Tropic straps that Woolbrook makes, Bro and I can both attest to the quality. They are very, very, very good. They're very high quality. So it's not like a cheapo silicon strap that you're getting. You're getting something nice.
Yeah, I did want to give a quick shout out to them because they did kick in some pink tropics. I think the first year I did Men Wear Pink, and they threw some in just for some runner up prizes and kind of just out of the blue, which was really cool. So big shouts to them for that. But I really like the way this thing looks, and like I said, for the price, it's really hard to beat. It's a really neat looking watch. I mean, if you ever seen these decompression timers, they almost have like a shrunken dial on them because
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
all the way inside these decompression rings or whatever you want to call these.
yeah.
So they have like the 12, 6, 9, and 3, but it's all kind of scrunched together and it's just a very busy dial, but it's well organized. It's not one of those busy dials that has you all over the place and you don't know what the heck's going on. This is very well laid out. And like I said, the rest of the watch outside of the kind of crazy dial is pretty sterile. So I think it really works when you put them next to each other, like in sort of juxtaposition. So I think it's really neat.
And it's a cool summer watch because it's so colorful. You know
Very.
what I mean? Like it's totally a diver's watch for sure. It's got that function, but it's got something a little bit more interesting visually. Now, let's be honest, most of us are not doing manual calculations when we go scuba diving anymore, but it's just kind of a
We're
cool
not?
nod. It's kind of a cool nod to the past that this is still a functional technology, even though the accepted technology these days is a wrist computer for diving. So, but it's cool. It's good. I like it.
Right. And it's a diver. So you'd be in the pool, you'd be at the beach, take it with you.
Absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely.
I guess sticking with the divers, Certina has a new version of their 1,000 meter diver.
Yes.
Dude, I'm shocked that they make 1,000 meter diver. Like this thing is, it's kind of a beast, right? It almost reminds me of like a, I don't know. I almost wanted to say like a mini Ploprof with the handset, but it's just
Yeah.
it's a big cushion case diver. It's 43.5 millimeters, but it's a 1,000 meter diver, and it's just not a brand that necessarily comes to mind. And it's weird because this one and another brand we're going to talk about, they're just not that big here in the States, from what I
Yeah, for
understand.
sure. Yes.
Because
That's
I've
the
heard Certina plenty of good things about them. I've heard they offer a lot of bang per buck spec wise. I think they have some interesting designs. I know we've talked about it once or twice on here,
mhm.
especially I think during like some of the challenge episodes that we've done. And it's weird to me that these don't get more play. I mean, this is a really cool looking one. It's like a seafoam green and it's got a an orange minute hand. And it's got, a big broadsword hour hand, and the markers have like orange accents around them. Like there's nothing not neat about this. I'm shocked these watches don't get a little more play.
I mean, it's kind of crazy because what people don't realize is Certina is actually one of the Swatch Group brands, right? There's a lot of
Right.
Swatch Group brands out
Yes.
there. Certina is one of them, but I just don't think that they have a big like retailer footprint in the U.S., if at all. And they're just not something that people are going to walk into a store and see, which is crazy because it's got such a cool history. They have this turtle case design, which is kind of, it looks almost like a Seiko turtle really in the case design. But this one is actually, they call it the STC, which is the sea turtle conservatory, basically helping to protect sea turtles and marine life. So this is actually a special edition piece. There's only 1,000 of them that'll be out there. I'm sorry, no, that was the orange version. This one's a normal production piece, but there was a special edition piece that was with the bright orange dial. Came out before, but this one is going to be special. It's going to be in the collection. It's going to be a unique piece, but I love it. I mean, it's a chunky boy. It's got that same specs as like a Planet Ocean, if you will, but 400 meters more water resistancy, and a watch that costs a lot less.
And you get a
So
Powermatic 80,
yeah, man.
and they're I mean, it's priced at, so if it's 885 pounds, that's got to be what? It's almost 2 to 1 on the dollar, something like that.
It's I'm looking at it, and somehow I'm looking at it in Swiss francs at 915 Swiss francs. So I'm assuming probably right around $1,000 or
Okay.
so US.
Okay.
But
I haven't
yeah,
done a
it's
conversion in a while on currency, but
me either. But it should be probably around the 1,000 to like $1,100 price point. But
might be
for a
some
thousand
good
meter rated
call.
diver,
$1,117.
okay, there you go, there you go. So I mean, it's hard not to like it. I mean, that's a very attractive price point for an 80-hour power reserve watch, 1,000 meter diver, funky like 70s diver aesthetic, cushion case, like very cool watch, and it goes to a good cause. So why wouldn't you want to buy something like that?
Right, who doesn't want to save the turtles? I mean, if you're gonna snip your plastic can holders, might as well get yourself a nice watch while you're at it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so while we're on Swatch Group, I guess we'll keep it there. Another brand that doesn't get a ton of play here for whatever reason, I've seen them at some of the micro shows. Interesting enough, Mito has an Ocean Star 39 out. There's a few different flavors, and they all come with this really what looks like an aggressive wave patterning on the
Hmm.
dial. You've got one that's sort of a black to blue ombre. You've got one that's a black to white ombre. You've got a two-tone with a champagne dial. And then I
Hmm.
think your and my favorite, a very stealthy all black with it's not even like a Fotina. It's just like an orange colored loom,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it looks really good though.
I mean, it's really in the Mito livery. Mito's colors are orange and black for those of you who are not familiar. But this is coming in at 1170 USD. This is a 72-hour power reserve, Mito, automatic movement, diving watch. I mean, the wave patterning on this, I can't really describe. It's almost like what I feel like the sand looks like, kind of like when you're underwater and like the current's kind of pushing it, or kind of creates these ripples in sand at the bottom. That's kind of what I think the design looks like to me. And having dove before and seen that, like this is what I think about immediately. Um, but it's cool, man. It's a very aggressive wave pattern. It's got like different colors and shades of the black and or whatever color you're looking at. And it just looks good. Like 39 millimeter, very good size. The one that we like is on an integrated rubber strap. It's just very sporty, very cool. And I love the orange and black. Like this is a very cool color.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And for those of you who are date window snobs, they have the color match date wheel, so everything is black. It's like an inverse. It's got the white numeral in it, so a lot to like here. I mean, it's just really sporty and really neat. And again, it's a brand that you just don't see a lot of play here, but I'm not sure why. I mean, like this is just a well proportioned diver. You know what I mean? It's
Eh,
the one that we all wanted when everything was 42, 43, right? And then I mean, now everything's come down, but this I think would have absolutely killed about, I don't know, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and for any of you guys that are witch dads out there that are listening, like this is the kind of perfect watch to get your son for like a graduation gift or something like that. Like they're finishing high school, finishing college, whatever it might be, not ready for a big boy watch just yet. This might be a nice price point to get them something that's a little bit nicer than something like a Seiko, which, again, Seikos are hitting even above
Or
this
more
price
than
point as
this
well.
now.
Yeah, which is nuts. But this is a historic brand. You got the backing of the Swatch Group. It's a very, very cool product. And this is one of those watches that you could strap on with confidence and wear for years and years and years. So it's totally, totally something I would pick up for sure.
Yeah, it's very neat. It's very neat. All right. So I think this is last up. Um, Formex, another micro that I've seen at shows. I don't have a ton of experience with these. I've held them a few times. I know a friend of the show, friend of the bro, Fernando from Red Bar has one that I've checked out a few times. Hi, Fernando. He listens to the show, but
Oh, nice.
yeah, but I know that they've made a lot of waves in recent years, right? They made the one that where you could pop off the bezel and kind of customize it, right? That was kind of a fan favorite given all of our history with our SKXs and stuff, where we would just do it with a butter knife and have to go through sourcing an insert and doing the whole thing. They give you the opportunity to do it yourself, which is really cool. But they put out this 39.5 millimeter reef in a Bahama blue, which is a really interesting blue. It's somewhat of a sky blue, I guess you'd say,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
Mm-hmm.
it's a very nice shade. And once again, the date wheel people will be very happy. It's color matched, and it's a nice layout. It's a cool K shape. Everything is very well defined. It's these are really nice looking watches, and again, it's cost certified Solita, which is cool. Coming in at 1790 on the euro. So again, you're looking at just under 2 grand, probably somewhere
Yeah,
around there.
it's yeah, 1960
Yep.
USD.
So, like I said, there's a ton of bang per buck here. Deciding which one of these watches you would go with and why, I think, is a kind of a tough decision, and not one that I envy anybody else to have to make. Thankfully, I'm not looking right now.
Yeah, me
But
either.
these
Me
are
either.
these are cool, and I think they've become somewhat of a fan favorite
Yeah.
from what I've seen. Like it's somewhat of an Instagram darling. I don't, have you seen these much?
I've not seen them in person, but I've certainly seen a lot of people post them online and on social media, stuff like that. They look cool. I've never held one, so I can't really speak to the quality or anything like that. But from those that I've talked to that own them or have experience with them, they're very well finished. The quality is certainly there, but it gives you a little bit of flexibility too, because you can swap bezels, as you mentioned. They give you a lot of different strap options that you can purchase on initially, and it's a really cool customization thing. I will say that having read the disclaimer on the website, the Bahama Blue is kind of like a summer capsule piece. So they're only going to produce it for the summer months, first come, first serve. Like once they exhaust, that production scale of however many they're producing, it's done. So if you like the color, don't walk, run, go grab you one and rock it, because it's a color that when you look at the website does not look as enticing as it might appear, but they have some like live wrist shots also on the website where you can kind of see the more definitive color in natural light. I'm not gonna lie, man, it's cool. It's kind of what I imagine Caribbean waters to look like. Like it's that very Caribbean
Yeah,
light blue. I can't think of another color that this looks like, because it's not like a Tiffany blue, which is to me a little bit more feminine. This has much more like a masculine tone to
yeah,
it. I
agreed.
guess it could be worn by a lady as well, but I mean, it's got much more of a masculine undertone to it. I think it looks really sporty. It looks really nice, and it's cool, man. Like it's hard to make a new dive watch, like style wise.
Certainly.
And I think they've done a pretty good execution making this different than anything else you see on the market, even thinking about how many dive watches there are out there. So it's pretty cool. And the size is great. I mean, 39 and a half. So 39.5 millimeters, less than $2,000. The website also points out too that 1960 includes shipping, taxes, and import taxes duties, which is nuts. So
Yeah, that's nice.
it's literally 1960, which is very cool.
Yeah, that's a nice little package.
It's nice, man. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. All right. Moving along here. So we've been doing a lot of doom and gloom in the themes of the episodes lately, and sort of just the overall landscape of the way things are coming out in watches right now. But I wanted to do a fun little. It's been a while since we did a little challenge episode, and this one is inspired by actually one of my employees because he he's turned 23 and he keeps going to me. He knows and he says, I'm 23. He's like, I think it's time for me to get a watch, and I'm like, meanwhile, this is the kid who took off today so he could go on an interview for a second job because stuff is expensive as hell. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
this is where we're at. And I'm like, I don't know if this guy, I don't know if you should be getting a watch right now because we all know one turns into two, turns into 10. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's gonna negate the whole purpose of you getting a second job. But yeah, I think times are tough and I don't know if a lot of people have a ton of money to spend on watches. I mean, look, the industry's still afloat. It hasn't cooled off too much yet, so I guess there's still that cash out there. But for the younger folks out there who maybe aren't commanding such huge salaries right now, I mean, it's tough. It's hard to sort of navigate the space. So almost as a joke, but not really, because I think if I were to ask him what he was looking for, he would be in this ballpark. So I almost humorously I put this one to you, and I said, how could we get my man off the ground here for I want to say under $100. Let's call it $100 even. And again, it doesn't matter. You could do used, you could do new, you could do something, but just get him into respectful territory without getting him hooked to the point where he's going to have 25 watches. We'll get him squared away. We'll put him in a good territory, and then he could be in a good space. And when he saves up for a big purchase, he can get there. But so, my I hate saying my employee because it makes it seem like who the hell I am. But my employee, Jamie, and by the way, not quite James, not quite Damien, Jamie. Interesting.
Okay.
But,
yes.
So this is inspired by him and his struggle for he sees he's good friends with the guy that I bought the Tissot for. So he sees it on the wrist. He sees what we're doing, and he's like, I'm getting into my 20s now. He's like, I think it's time. I got to get one. So I wanted to kind of do some thinking for him before he gets himself into trouble. So.
It's funny though that like already you've inspired two different people within your small group that like are now getting into watches. That's how it starts, man.
That's
it's
the
like,
beauty of it, isn't it?
We just spread the love and spread the cancer at the same time. You know what I mean? Like it's it's kind of crazy.
It's like marriage, for better or for worse.
Yeah. We're gonna open the door. You just might have to step foot through it.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, and there's one thing that you forgot to leave out because you said that it was a 2-watch minimum.
Oh, that's right. That was the fun part. It's a 2-watch minimum. It's easy. Yeah, it's easy to buy one watch for $100. The way I wanted to make it really interesting was 2-watch minimum.
I'm not gonna lie. When you threw me the topic for tonight, I was like, yeah, that sounds easy. I can do that. And then going through the exercise of like actually looking and trying to source 2 watches that I could build a 2-watch collection for a combined total of $100. I was like, this is not feasible anymore. And going through the research, like I told you off air, I mean, I was doing this for probably 2.5 hours, 3 hours. I spent way too much time doing this, and I don't even love my choices 100%, by the way. But I mean, it was one of those exercises that I was like, yeah, I'm fully prepared for this. I know exactly where to start. And exactly where I started, I was like, oh, crap. I can't afford this anymore. I mean, let me put it to you this way. I've talked about it before. Like my first Seiko was a Seiko 7002J. It was basically the predecessor to what would become the SKX, right? When I bought that watch, probably in 2010, 2011, it was $86. Okay. And that was, for me, that was a lot of money back then. And this was my first mechanical watch, first automatic watch, all those things, right? And this was a drunk eBay purchase, 100% how it happened. And I bought it, came from Singapore, and I was like, I got scammed. Like they stole my money, but the watch ended up showing up. It was working. It was all these things, right? And I loved it. And I still have it to this day. But I was like, there's no way, several years later, over 10 years later, that this watch wouldn't have come down in value because it was a piece of crap watch back then. It should be a piece of crap watch now. And any of them that are out there are going to be even less than what I paid for because nobody's looking for this watch. No, they're
Nope.
on the high end, $500. I was like, you have got to be joking me. The lowest one that I could find was $250. And this watch looked like it was beat to shit. I was like, there's no way. Then I started going through, well, let me look at some SNKs.
Well, that was where my mind immediately goes, the SNK, right?
I was
you
like,
used to be able to get it for 80. You think, I use 60? That's not bad. I could swing that. And then you look and you're like, no, sir.
used 150. And I was
right.
like, what? I was like, this was a freebie watch. Like I would buy this and give it to people. It was just kind of like it was so inexpensive that it was like, okay, this is where I'm gonna go. Seiko 5 military, date, automatic, exhibition case back, whatever color flavor you want, tan, black, blue, green, it had all the livery, right? And no, man, it's crazy. It's crazy how much things have gone up in price. And it's like all the things that I would have picked as usual suspects, I just couldn't find anymore. I mean, I told you too, is like I was looking at Invicta Pro Divers and I was still priced out. used Invicta Pro Divers. You know what I mean? Like I was still priced out of our price threshold. I was like, this is crazy. This is a very hard exercise. So when we go through our picks, just be loving to us listeners because this was not easy. So
no, and again, that was the point. It's always listen. It's easy to do. Oh, let's do 3-watch collection under $500. Okay, but this is racking the brain, my friend.
No, 2-watch collection for under $100. I was like, this is next to impossible. This is next to impossible. So I'll let you kick it off because I'm curious to see where you kind of go with this.
Okay,
what you think for your buddy Jamian.
Jamian. All right. So, like you said, I went through all the usual suspects. I was shocked at how much a lot of them go for nowadays.
Yeah.
I definitely had some preconceived picks in my head that I could not go with. I did want to start off somewhere around this one, and I think it's a good place to start, and I think it's a good all-arounder. I wanted to start off with the Timex Field Watch. They come in all black, or they come in sort of a metallic looking. I mean, the cases are aluminum, but you can get a black case, black dial. You could get a sort of a metallic looking case with like a cream dial. I actually wound up finding the best prices on eBay. Strangely enough,
okay.
So I just stuck there, and so the black on black is $33.99.
Okay.
The tan dial is $36.99, and my second pick would make me choose which one I would go with here. But in my opinion, I mean, these are classic looking watches. It's a familiar design. It's sort of a can't miss. I mean, people have been wearing these watches forever. I don't think anybody would turn their nose up at something like this. It's a classic looking field watch from a brand that has the history behind it. It's a quartz watch. It's easy to take care of. If he beats it up, who cares? For me, this one is like a no brainer. And I looked at, there is even the hand winder on here used. I mean, it's up for auction, but I was like, oh, it almost fits in the price range, which would have been so nice because that one has like an olive dial, and it's really a pretty sweet package. But even so, this one's cool. I could definitely roll with this. Like if I was a just starting person, I think this is a good place to start. I wouldn't feel bad about damaging it, breaking it, losing it even. So I wanted to start off with this one. I think a field watch is a good place. They always come in a good size. These ones are 36. So I think this is a good place to start. I think,
and this is the Expedition, right? That's the one I'm looking at.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought. Because this was on my pick. This was originally on my pick list, and I was like, knowing how difficult I'm having with this, I'm sure bro's having the exact same difficulty. I was like, I don't want to pick this one because I feel like it's gonna be that, right? And I'm glad I did not because I had a feeling you might pick it, which
Yeah.
is cool, which is
And
cool. But
this,
no, this is solid choice, man. You can't go wrong with an expedition. I had so many of them over the years when I was first getting into watch collecting because you just like run over to Walmart and you're like, oh, this one looks kind of cool, and you just pick it up for $50 and it does the thing. You know what I mean? They're solid. They're workhorses, and again, it's nothing to snub your nose at. Like they look cool, and it's got that military vibe, which is nice.
right. And the Tandile has Indiglo, which is always a nice party trick. You
Yes,
know,
gotta have the in the glow,
if you
baby.
can't afford an IWC full loom,
Yeah, I don't think any of us can afford an IWC full loom, dude. It's
no,
so
no, sir.
expensive; it doesn't even have a price point.
No,
And
sir.
if you have to ask, you definitely can't afford it.
Yeah. All right. Second up, I think probably everybody and their brother is probably screaming by now at the speaker. Casio, yes, okay, we know. I didn't want to go F91. I
Thank you.
thought that was just a little basic, so I would
Yeah.
at least like to step it up to World Timer.
Okay.
I think that gives you some, interesting looks, some fun features, plenty of functionality. It's a neat party trick. And again, if you beat it up, you lose it. Who cares? Whatever. They do come in a black case or a metallic case. So again, I would probably alternate depending on which Timex I got.
Mm-hmm.
But again, no brainer. Everybody loves this watch. Everybody's probably had this watch. They're fun. They're sort of ubiquitous. Everybody knows what it is. I think everybody respects the hustle. So I thought this is an easy one to throw out there. And, 2 for 2 on glowing watches. So,
I like it. I like it. Yes.
right.
I mean, it's a cult classic for a reason. It's a funky little watch, especially with the world time display and everything like that. It's a cool piece, and I've actually never personally owned one, which is funny, but I know a lot of people have. I mean, this is one of those quote unquote god tier watches, as they say. But it's just fun. It's a cool party trick, and it's nice to be able to tell time in multiple places around the world at the same time. And it's a very practical feature too. It's probably a little less like traditional watch per se. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's got the digital readout and everything like that. So it's a little less traditional in that sense, but certainly a cool pick that like if you're rocking it, like nobody's really gonna look at you differently. It's just gonna be like, oh, he's got a watch now, and that's kind of cool. It's a fun piece for sure.
And it's funny you mentioned God here. So again, he knows about the the whole watch thing and my relationship with it and everything. And one day he goes to me, "Oh, did you see this guy? He got in a beef with Rick Ross." And he's like, "This guy Nico." And I was like, "Yeah." Oh, I was like that dude. I was like, would it make you feel weird if I told you that guy? Like, he definitely knows. Like, he knows who I am. And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, he knows who I am." And he's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Wow, this is messed up, dude." Like, I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's a thing." He's like, "Oh, I didn't know it was that big of a deal." I'm like, "Yeah, it's fun."
Good old Nico Leonard, huh?
Yeah. So, um, and believe it or not, I squeezed another watch in here. I mean, that one goes for 24 and change. I managed to squeeze one more in, and this one is sort of and a little bit of an esoteric pick, but I think a fun one. In this price range, I Swatch comes to mind. I mean, they're inexpensive, they're fun, they offer a lot of different packages and flavors. I found, I mean, it is it's an irony chronograph,
Okay.
and it is $32. So
No
it's a
way.
vintage irony chronograph. It's in real good shape. And if you don't know about the irony, this one's really cool looking. And again, it's got the different cities around the bezel. And the part I like about this is it tells you how far away from GMT it is. If you look at it,
No way.
yeah. So London is 0, Buenos Aires is -3, New York is -5. It says it around the bezel, which I thought is a really cool little tidbit. Aside from that, it is a chronograph. It's a pretty neat dial. It's got, if you can imagine the same layout as like the Moon Swatch, sort of like that really aggressive
Mm,
sharp V with the the subdials.
Mm-hmm.
But the layout's pretty cool. It has only the 12, 4, and 8 as far as numerals go, and it's got markers all around the outside. It's mostly black, red accents, a little bit of white and gray in there, but really cool, really fun watch. It's got the little battery hatch on the back, which is always, a fun little party trick. But a real slick watch. And I was like, man, for $32, I was like, maybe I'll just buy this. But it's cool. I would definitely think this is a neat watch for somebody who's just getting going. Maybe they don't want to drop 260 on a moon swatch quite yet.
Yeah, for sure.
Or something like that. But
do you know why they call it the irony?
I do not.
So what is a swatch typically made out of?
Plastic?
Yeah, it's plastic or some type of resin, right? They call it the irony collection because they're stainless steel.
Oh, okay.
Or they're metal. So it's ironic that it's a different material. That's kind of the idea behind the irony. So whenever you hear irony referred to it with swatch, it automatically means it's a metal version.
Yeah, and that is one thing I also liked about this. I was like, oh, it doesn't look like it doesn't. Some people might think a resin watch or a something like that looks a little cheap. Like this doesn't at all. So I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, it's cool. That's a cool pick, man. Especially with that's the kind of nuance that people can find very interesting about watches, especially as you're a new budding collector, because I remember when I first discovered that you could measure different time zones on a watch, and having that idea is like, wow, something that is this simple, somebody engineered to do this is like, that's so cool. Like, even though I may not use that feature for what it's intended for, just the ability to like know that you could use that is quite cool. So I'm happy you picked the Swatch watch because that's something that probably a lot of watch people wouldn't have normally chosen. But I think it's a very, very inspired, very cool pick for sure.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was neat. And so managed to sneak 3 under or right around $100.
Wow.
So
wow. All right. So let me start out with my first pick. This one I chose because when I first got into collecting, it wasn't my first watch per se, but it was certainly one of the first ones that got me into watches and really grabbed me and pulled me in. Now, the one that I owned originally was a different version of this, and it was more expensive at the time. But it was the Casio G-Shock DW 5600.
Yep.
Classic watch. Like, it is the archetypal G-Shock. It's clean, thin profile, square case, the original size, the original reference. Very, very cool watch. Right now you can find it on the website on gshock.com for around $75. But on Amazon, it is selling right now for $49.88.
Ooh, very
which
nice.
Is a song. I mean, this is one of the most indestructible watches on planet Earth. It's a very cool watch to give to somebody, especially if you're looking at it as a gift type thing. It's very inexpensive and it's indestructible. Like, it can do everything, go anywhere, be anything. And that particular watch is just going to take a licking. And for somebody that works in food service and that kind of stuff, where you're handling a lot of sharp objects, metal pans, washing your hands, all this crazy stuff, washing food, you need something that you can beat the piss out of and not have to worry about it, especially as you learn how to wear a watch. Because that's the other thing, too, that we sometimes often forget is like... It's like, now that like when you walk through a door, you tuck your hand behind your back.
Yeah, you kind of, especially when you walk by somebody, you kind of do the little tuckaroo. Yeah.
Everyone always looks at me weird at the airport when I'm walking through, and I'm like, I'm very conscious of where my watch is, because there have been a few times when I first started traveling, like I clacked watches with somebody, like walking through the airport in a busy day. And then I was like, I won't make that mistake ever again. So it's kind of one of those things, but like, as you're new to the hobby, you don't know spatially, like, the limitations of like where your watch can hit things, because you haven't learned the hard way yet.
Yeah.
And for me, it's one of those things that's like, I was really thinking about what would be a good watch that is cool, and it has street cred, right? Like G-Shocks, people in pop culture, people in hip hop culture, people that are out there, they know what a G-Shock is because they're
Wu-Tang
fashionable.
has a G-Shock.
Exactly. Now, is this the most fashionable version? No, it's literally the most sterile, conservative one you can buy. It's just black. There's no special cool color LCD screen or accents or anything like that. It's literally just like black with a basic LCD screen, right? Um, but it's just a very cool watch that even people who don't know what watches are or not into collecting watches would be like, oh, I know what a G-Shock is, right? Like that's something I've seen before. Eminem has one, right? Like
Yep.
it's kind of one of those things. I mean, hell, Eminem has a massive collection of G-Shocks. It's kind of crazy. All the money in the world, and he's like, I can buy a Rolex.
Yeah,
It's
you
like,
heard that story? That's
yeah,
funny. He
yeah,
asked
yeah.
his manager if he could buy a Rolex.
It's like, do I have enough money for this? But cool. I mean, it's a watch I love. It's a watch I deeply respect, and to this day, I will always have some derivation of 5600 in my collection for sure because it's a mainstay for me. It's a non-negotiable to have for sure.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because yeah, I'm also a 5600 guy. Even over the Casio, I think I'm still a 5600 guy. It's always sort of
100%.
just it's been classic G-Shock to me. So I've always when I think about G-Shock, I think 5600. So that'll be the one that I gravitate to. But it's also funny you said non-negotiable because also what you're talking about with wearing watch and food service and stuff. I was getting into the third season of The Bear
hmm
recently,
Is it
and
good?
uh, so far it's okay. They kind of like started off with like a bringing it back episode type of thing.
Okay.
So I'll let you know. But
Okay.
in the first episode he makes a list of non-negotiables. Funny enough, and there's a lot of flashbacks, and one of them he's I guess probably at I guess at Danielle, but he's with Danielle Boulud, who's a very famous celebrity chef, and you see him and he's sort of working with him, and Danielle's training him, and Danielle's got on a two-tone root beer GMT. And
Okay.
I'm thinking about working in the kitchen with something that high polished, and I'm like, God damn, man! Like I know a lot of people, a lot of times they're not getting their hands dirty, but I'm just like, oh, the level of anxiety seeing that is wild. Based on what we were just talking about, I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
oof,
for sure.
like, but
I mean, it's yeah, it's just fun. I mean, I think about to like my old fraternity days when we had like a full commercial kitchen,
yeah,
like in our fraternity house, and like literally everything is stainless steel,
it's just
like
unrelenting.
backsplash.
Yeah,
It's everywhere. I mean, from warming trays to stainless steel prep surfaces, like all of these things, the fryer, like deep, the walk-in freezers, like all this stuff. And it's crazy. Like I can't tell you how many times in college I hit my watch walking by the prep kitchen table. Just like it's like, oh, that definitely steel and steel. They don't like each other very much. It's
nope.
not good. So maybe the G-Shock is a better option for this kitchen work.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. But that's again, that's why I usually don't wear my nicer stuff to work. I mean, unless I have a real easy day ahead of me, but just not something I try to do. You know.
For sure, for sure.
All right, what else do you got on your docket there?
So my second pick was something that I really struggled with because I found something that I was like, okay, this is done. This is easy. I can check this one off the list. And I had kind of told myself, it's like, if I was going to build a two watch collection for under $100, I was like, well, I got to have something that's super indestructible. But then I had to have something that essentially could be the go out watch, right? Like, G-Shock's great if you're working out, you're doing something active, you want to beat it up, but you want something a little bit more refined. If you're going to go on a date, you're going to go to dinner, whatever, right? You're going to go hang out with friends at a bar. You want something that's going to have a little bit more of a presence. And that was kind of my thinking and what I really wanted to focus on. So having a true two watch collection. The struggle was, as I mentioned earlier, is like everything that I thought would be a nice pick, it just wasn't where I wanted it to be. And I got myself to thinking, okay, what's in this price range? And I'm doing all the Google researching that I can. The Casio Duro popped up like 1,000 different times, and I was like, it's just so many people have used that watch. I was like, it's just not something that I want to use. So I'll give it an honorable mention because it falls within the $50 price point. So it could be certainly a pick. So if you're listening and you don't know what a Casio Duro is, it's a diver style Casio. People love it. It's very inexpensive, and a lot of famous people have worn it. Whatever. Cool watch. No shame against it. Just not something that I wanted to pick because it's been done before. So I started to kind of go back and reassess what I wanted to do. And what I did, and this is why this pick is a little unusual, is I removed my watch brain out of it.
Okay, interesting.
And what I focused on was, okay, if I was a new collector in the watches, if I could go back 15 years of my life and say, okay, if I knew nothing about watches and I wanted something that was going to bring me true happiness and joy and something that I would love to wear, it would be maybe more fashionable than it would be technical or whiz watch choice. And I was looking up a bunch of different options, and this watch popped up a few times, and it is not at all a watch pick. Like, it is not something that a watch collector is going to be like, yeah, this is what I would go to.
Okay.
But it kind of got me thinking. I was like, this is a brand that got me into watch collecting in a roundabout way. It's not the typical Casio, it's not Timex, it's not that. It's a fashion brand.
Okay.
And I chose a Fossil.
All right.
And there's a specific Fossil on the website right now, on their actual corporate website, that you can buy for $38. And it's called the Easton. And it's a field watch. That's essentially what the style is. It's a little bigger than I would have liked at 42 millimeters,
Yeah.
but it comes in two flavors on the website. There's like a blackened version, and there's like kind of more of like a gunmetal-y gray steel version. But it's a classic, field watch with the number scale 1 through 12. Then it has the 24-hour counters on the inside. It's got kind of like these paddle syringe style hands, and
I'm not
the
gonna lie,
pen.
the black one kind of looks like that Paddock,
I,
doesn't it? Like the one with the same exact handset and
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
tan. Yeah, that's
I mean,
funny.
it's just a funky watch, and I like it because, like, when you look at the close up of the dial, it's got this really granular texture to it. Like, it's very aggressive looking. And I was like, if I was if I was a person that wanted to get a nice watch, or what I perceived to be a nice watch, something that was a little bit more adult, you know, this is something that I would pick because it looks like it's a nice watch. And I've owned countless Fossils in my life. I used to work for them, and that's kind of why this watch has a little bit more of an emotional connection, is because, like, that was really the company that got me into watch collecting in a roundabout way. I didn't start out in the luxury world. I didn't, before I was selling luxury watches, like, that was what I was doing. I was working part-time at Fossil and making, minimum wage, and it was what ignited my passion for watches. And I cannot tell you, still to this day, when I worked there, I got more compliments on my watches than I ever did owning a luxury watch, because people see it as an accessory. They see it as just a thing that you wear,
Yeah, I get that.
but it looks good to them. And they have no idea about watches. There's like, hey man, I like your watch. That looks really cool. What is it? And it's like, it's a Fossil. It's like nothing special, nothing crazy. But there's a lot of people out there that they started with Fossil. I'm one of them for sure. And I was like, if I had to go back and do it all over again, knowing what I know now and removing that from my brain, like, this is a watch I would walk into a store and I'd buy, and I'd think it was a great watch, and I would be completely happy, completely content. And it's a watch that I can wear dressed up. I can wear dressed down casually. I can go out with friends. I can go on a date, whatever. And it's going to be something that's going to, bring me a lot of joy, right? I've always talked about it kind of like in car terms. It's like, what watch is going to give you the most miles per gallon, right? Like,
Right.
it doesn't have to be the fastest car. It doesn't have to be the most luxurious or sporty car in the world, but what's going to bring you the ultimate joy? And I think this is something that's really grounded. Maybe not a true watch collector pick, but that's kind of why I like it. And knowing more about the background for why you chose this episode, I think that it makes so much more sense for somebody like that to get something like this.
Yeah, and I can't lie. I mean, this was a popular brand. If you were gonna give a gift to a younger person, like I think about when I was young, and it comes Christmas time, you have like aunts and uncles who maybe don't know your tastes or your hobbies that well, and they're like, "Oh, well, whatever. I'll get the kid a wristwatch, like whatever." Like
Hmm.
this is something that they would get you. I mean, during that time, like Fossil was like I don't want to say it's not a household name now, but it was like, it was a neat brand. Like
Hmm.
it's got a cool ring to it, right? Like, so for somebody young and they get something like, oh, it's from Fossil, like I know the name, like I think that's a decent product. And then, like you said, the designs aren't terrible. They're usually pretty traditional, pretty safe, I would say.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I can't fault you for the pick. I mean, I don't know, some of the listeners might not be stoked with it, but I think at the same time you have to understand. And for second of all, I mean, it's a challenge for a reason, right? Like I said, we're not doing
100%.
rewatches under 500, not under 300, not no, we're going under $100 just for the
For
fun of it,
for
just
two
for
watches.
right. This is Bear Grylls. Let me drink my own pee type shit. So
And one thing that I thought was crazy and mind blowing to me is this $38 watch. You can have it engraved by Fossil for free.
well, that's cool.
So, like, if you really wanted to give this to somebody as a gift, you could literally get their initials engraved in it on their or their name engraved on it on the back for free for $38. I'm like, how could you that like that to me is like super cool, and that's what also makes it feel more special. That like if you wanted to give this to somebody, you could do that. And now they feel like this is a grown up thing. You know what I mean? Like it looks good. You can beat the piss out of it. And let's be honest, you know, the same movement that's in that fossil is probably in that Timex. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
probably, most likely.
it's a Japanese quartz movement. It's gonna run forever. And then, once it dies, you just put a new battery in it, it's gonna run forever again. So it was kind of a funny thing. And again, I know it's a very unconventional pick for the watch community, but that was kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring something to the table that was a little bit more realistic and grounded, especially given the price constraints. So hopefully you guys don't beat me up too much in the comments for it, but uh, given the complexity of this assignment, it was something I hope you guys understand.
Yeah, I think I would engrave that. Work starts at 6:30, not 7.
That would be hilarious.
Because yeah, I mean, you're typically, if you have a place that serves breakfast, there's only one person who opens, and when you're the boss, you get to see the time clock
Oh
results.
God.
And breakfast doesn't open till 8 per se, but
There's a lot of
sometimes you
prep
need
work
every
before,
minute.
Yeah,
Sometimes you
for
need
sure.
every minute. You know.
You should totally buy this for your coworker and just have it on engraved on the back. Be on time. Me.
Yeah, here you go. Now there's no excuse.
That's right. So you wanted this door open, buddy. I delivered.
Yeah, you did
And
this.
and it's like now you have a watch, so you have no excuse to know what time it is.
That's funny. That's actually very funny, to be honest.
You should do it. At $38, why
Yeah, for
not?
$38, that might be worth the laugh. I'm not gonna lie to you.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Be on time. Me. Breakfast starts at 6:30.
Yeah, that would be good, right?
That would be hilarious. That would be absolutely hilarious.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I can think of a few other ones, but maybe they're not so appropriate. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know if Fossil would engrave that on the back, but
Yeah, they might have to use a few characters like F,
asterisks.
yeah, ampersand.
Oh, love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
that's good though. No, then that was what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a fun exercise. It's supposed to be kind of tongue in cheek, but at the same time, it's hard to do. It's a hard
It,
challenge.
I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. Of all of the challenges that you've ever had me do up until this point, 121 episodes in, this was the most difficult. I spent the most time trying to find two watches for roughly around $50 each. And it took me forever. Like it literally took me. I was at dinner, sitting alone by myself, eating some sushi, and I'm like, all right, well, I better start doing this now because I got this assignment, and I'm like, this is impossible. I need to finish my food. I need to go back and sit in my hotel room and think about this because this is challenging, and that's what I did. So, and I'm curious too. I'm curious to know kind of what our listeners think. Like, what would you pick? And I'm going to challenge you guys to let us know in comments and messages because you guys are always very good about it every week. If you had to do this challenge, what would you choose for two watches under $100
That's right.
combined?
The minimum two is the
That's what throws you, man. It's
yeah,
like one watch
the
for
curveball.
$100, easy, easy. There's so many watches out there that you can get for $100. There's even a lot of mechanical watches you can get for $100. I mean, I was searching on AliExpress and I was like, there's got to be something fugazi out there that I could use, you know? And I was like, I can't even find anything on AliExpress that is like not cringeworthy for $100. So it was not easy, but I'm curious to know if any of our listeners want to kind of take on this challenge themselves this week to figure out something and send us in the DMs. Like, what two watches would you pick combined total for $100?